Hello and welcome to Retro Breeze. This is going to be a bit more of an unscripted, kind of off-the-cuff video. I haven't written anything out for this or anything. I just wanted to give you my impressions and kind of opinions of the upcoming Miu Mini successor devices. Now, in case you're not aware, there's basically three kind of leaked, definitely not announced, devices coming from Miyoo. Most notably of which is the Miyoo P60. There's also what appears to be a horizontal layout, Miyoo Mini. So I'm going to start out with the Miyoo P60, which is no doubt the most interesting of the devices. From what we've seen so far, and I'll try and have some video up for you to see as the background to my voice, is basically an Android-based dual analog stick device. It appears, or I'm guessing it's going to be using the Helio P60 processor. That would make a lot of sense. And of course P60 is definitely not the final name for the device. And from what I've seen so far, it looks pretty incredible actually. It's very small, actually not much bigger than a Retroid Pocket 2 Plus or even that much bigger than the Miu Mini. Has recessed analog sticks, a very nice 16:10 aspect ratio screen, which is very popular. It's the same kind that appears on the Steam Deck. And this is kind of weird. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it, but 16:10 is great because it minimizes borders on basically any aspect ratio, whether it's widescreen 16:9 or 4:3 or 3:2 like Game Boy Advance. It really minimizes the black borders. I'm not a huge fan of it because it kind of means no matter what you are gonna have black borders of some kind, but I mean they are minimal. That's really kind of a nitpick. So the P60 is something that is very interesting, but I have to admit I'm a bit skeptical of what I've seen. Now, I'm not trying to be a cynic, and I'm going to preface this by saying I hope it is what it looks like it's going to be. But from what I've seen so far, the P60 appears to be incredibly powerful. We're talking PS2 games that even my AYN Odin cannot emulate to the quality that I've seen in the P60 videos. Now granted, the videos I've seen are very low quality, but I think you can kind of generally make it out. Stuff like Wind Waker, Castlevania Curse of Darkness on PS2, a bunch of games like that seem to be running absolutely incredibly. Now I actually have a Helio device. I think it's a Helio A22 phone, and I will talk about that some other time. But that actually emulates incredibly. Like it goes up to Dreamcast, absolutely flawless. And so I don't doubt that a Helio P60 might be able to do this, but the fact that it seems to be better than an ultra premium device like the Odin, I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical, to be honest. I wonder if game streaming is being used for some of these videos. I might be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's generally my impression of it. It looks really interesting. I think the size to performance looks absolutely incredible if it is doing what they're showing it to be doing. Of course, I do expect that these are pre-release units, and that whatever we get will probably be a bit less powerful than it appears in these videos. That's just standard practice. But it looks like it's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all of that, a great screen, and it's very small, so I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm certainly going to pick one up if they do end up materializing. I just really hope that it's as good as the performance looks from the leaked videos. I'm just a bit skeptical. I don't know, maybe it's just the skeptic in me. I'm just skeptical it's going to be as good as it looks. I'm not a huge fan of the design, but I will say it's ultra minimal. Like it's almost like they just wanted to make the most bog standard basic device they could make with this processor, with this performance, with this control layout, which is fine. I think the key for the P60, the absolute key, is going to be the price. It has to be as close to $100 as it can possibly be, not only to compete with the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, which right now is the gold standard in the $100 price range, but also, you know, we have portable PCs coming out at around the $200 mark, from the likes of AYN. Actually, I think it's a bit more than that. But anyway, I think the thing is with Miyoo, they need to keep their prices low. So with that said, let's move on to what I guess is known as the Miyoo Mini 2. Not officially, of course, is this leaked horizontal layout device that looks a lot like the Miyoo Mini. It's hardly bigger, and the picture that we've seen so far is really weird. It's definitely a pre-production prototype. Actually, if you look carefully, the screen is actually photoshopped on, so we have to take this all with a grain of salt. However, I'm a bit torn about this one, because whereas I really like horizontal devices, and I like small ones, like my RGB 10 Pro is still to this day one of my favorite devices, I'm a bit skeptical about this one as well, because I think the Miu Mini, or not skeptical of what it is, but skeptical of how successful it will be, because the Miu Mini has a very specific appeal in that that it is very small. It can be played with one hand, which I think is one of the essential selling points of the Miyoo Mini. And it looks like a Game Boy. So to me, that's a kind of a triple sales threat. Number one, wow, that kind of looks like the Game Boy I used to have. Number two, wow, it's really small. I can throw it in my pocket. Actually, I can even play it with one hand. I can play Final Fantasy VII with one hand. And three, wow, it will play all of my old games. PS1 and before. I think those three things make made the Miyoo Mini the massive success that it's been. And unlike any other retro handheld, the Miyoo Mini has broken into the mainstream. Not quite the mainstream, but kind of the mainstream of the retro handhelds niche, right? Everybody wants one. People who have never had anything like this before want one. It has this real visual appeal from the moment you see it. You're kind of like, wow, that's like an old Game Boy but smaller. And it plays all my games. And I think that is a real incredible selling point, or not, value proposition is the right word, that the Miyoo Mini has. And of course, the great thing about the Miyoo Mini is you get it in your hands and it's just as good as it looks, right? The screen is amazing, plays all your games really well. You can play it with one hand so comfortably. I mean, I play my Miyoo Mini one-handed more than anything else. I'm just like standing around cooking or doing whatever, and I'm just playing games. Mostly Neo Geo Pocket Color slot machine games, but hey, it works for that. And so when I think of a horizontal device, you're immediately cutting off a massive part of that. It no longer looks like a Game Boy, and it also doesn't look like a Game Boy Advance, right? And then it also cannot be played one-handed, at least not effectively. And so to me, I'm kind of like, with a horizontal Miyoo Mini, it might be cool, but it's not going to have the mainstream appeal that the Miyoo Mini has. And then at the same time, you have the likes of the RGB10 Pro, which, and of course the Anbernic originals of that Power Kitty, was quote unquote inspired by. I don't know a lot about Anbernic devices, ironically, like I think it's the 350MP or the 350P that the Power Kitty RGB10 is kind of ripped off of. Inspired by. And those are all incredible devices, even though the RK3326 processor is kind of a meme at this point. It is amazing for what it does, With the RGB10, you've got Dreamcast emulation, you've got PSP emulation, PS1 is flawless. Even some kind of Sega Saturn is trickling in, although it would never be great. And I think that those already have the horizontal handheld market cornered, right? They have it cornered, they have it completely taken care of. Really, I think the next evolution for that market is either going to be dirt cheap. I'm talking like $20 decent quality handhelds, which I don't think will necessarily happen. Or you're going to be into your Odins, right? Or your Miyoo P60s. And so I think, where does the Miyoo Mini 2, that's just what I'm going to call it. I'll call it the Miyoo Mini Horizontal. Miyoo Mini H, how about that? I don't see where the Miyoo Mini H fits in, because it doesn't fit in with the crowd that likes the Miyoo Mini necessarily, or it doesn't fit the attraction that the Miyoo Mini has. And then it also doesn't fit the likes of the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus or the upcoming Miyoo P60 in these cheap horizontal but very powerful handhelds. I just personally don't see the appeal of it, so I don't really know what it's going to be. I don't really know who it's going to be for. I'm just not really sold on the idea. And of course, I'm not also sold on the design. If you look in the photos, there's kind of this recessed design, and the idea is that you're going to have interchangeable faceplates. That only goes so far though. I mean, that's not that... it's a cool feature, I like customization, of course, but to me, I would rather have this tiny vertical Miyoo Mini that I can play with one hand, that's very nostalgic, that kind of feels like a Game Boy, you can throw it in your pocket and all of that, than the horizontal one that is kind of, if it is the same thing like the screenshots, I guess imply, if you want to extrapolate it, it has a screenshot of the same OS. I'm guessing that means it's going to be the same kind of thing. It's just kind of the same thing, but not as appealing in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much my impressions of the Miyoo Mini 2 or Miyoo Mini H and the Miyoo P60, which is definitely the most interesting of all the devices, and actually I would say probably the most interesting device overall in the retro handheld market, upcoming retro handheld market, because you have the likes of AYN who have kind of moved on to PCs now, which is fine, I support that, but then at the same time you have the kind of already dominated horizontal market. So yeah, I guess with the P60, it seems really powerful, the design is good, it's very small. If it stacks up in price to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, I think it will be very appealing. And the horizontal, I'm not sold on it. I don't really see any place for it in the market personally. Again, unless it's really cheap, but the problem is, you need to go cheaper than the Miyoo Mini in order to achieve that, because you already have tried and tested devices from Anbernic, from Powkiddy, that really already have this covered. I think the Mini was really unique in its value proposition as a tiny Game Boy. So yeah, okay, sorry, that was a bit of a, a bit of a crazy kind of impressions. Make of it what you will. Let me know what you think in the comments section below, and I look forward to hearing what you think of these upcoming devices. Are you going to pick them up? Are you convinced by one that I'm not, or something like that? Let me know in the comments. And as always, this has been Shem from Retro Breeze, and I will see you next time.